So good morning, everybody, and welcome you to the April 18th, 2023 meeting of the Calvert County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'd like to ask Pastor Joan Jones. Morning, Pastor. Would she come forward and give us an invocation?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let us pray. As we gather in this space this morning for this appointed time, God, we give you thanks for such a glorious morning, such a gorgeous day. And now, God, as we prepare for this meeting, we ask that you will supply those who are before us, who have been selected to carry on the affairs of this county. God, that you would be with them and guide them and lead them. God, we pray for wisdom, that all of those discussions and discernments will be resolved. God, we pray for their caring and compassionate nature in their hearts. For God, we know that they have the care and the compassion for the people of this county as they sit before us to deliberate those things which need to be discussed. God, we pray that you would give them listening ears, and God, that you would open their eyes that they may see not only our current reality, but that which is coming before us. God, we ask that everything that is done in this space and all the decisions that will be made will be done for the quality and the quantity of life of the citizens of this county. And we ask that in the marvelous, matchless name of the risen one. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So thank you, Pastor Jones. Pastor Jones comes to us from St. Edmund's United Methodist Church. We really appreciate you coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda as presented. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I have none.
Mr. President, I make a motion, we approve and adopt the agenda as submitted.
Second?
I have a motion and a second that we approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So I have a couple public service announcements. Next week is the start of farmers market season for Calvert County. The Calvert Health, the hospital here in Prince Redick, will start their farmers market on Tuesday, April 25th. And that market is from 2:30 to 6:30. We ask you all to attend any farmers market in Calvert County and support our local farmers. And also want to remind everyone that tomorrow night there'll be a joint public hearing with the Planning Commission and the County Commissioners at the Harriet Elizabeth Brown Community Center at 7 p.m. The meeting will be streamed live on the YouTube channel for those who wish to participate that way. That's all I have at this time. Next item on the agenda is a proclamation for Archaeological Month. Commissioner Grasso.
Please come up. State your name, please.
I'm Craig Lukasik, currently serving as the president for Council for Maryland Archaeology.
Welcome. Come on up.
Thank you.
Chris Berlin, Historic Preservation Planner.
Thank you both for being here today to do the proclamation. Okay. Whereas since 1993, the state of Maryland has recognized the month of April as Maryland Archaeology Month, celebrating the importance of archaeology by understanding the past. And whereas the stories of countless Marylanders and residents of Calvert County are to be found only in the materials they left behind. And whereas it is essential to celebrate contribution made for thousands of years by those who preceded us, especially those otherwise forgotten in the texts of history. And whereas the theme of this year's Maryland easy for me to say, Archaeology Month, where did you find that artifact? Context is crucial in Maryland archaeology. reminds us that archaeology offers a means to understand the lives of our forebears before being lost to the forces of development, sea level rise, and climate change. And whereas organizations such as the Maryland Historical Trust, the Archaeological Society of Maryland, the Council for Maryland Archaeology, the Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs, Preservation Maryland, the Maryland Department of Transportation, and several other state, local, and private entities co-sponsor this celebration. And whereas Calvert County is pleased to join in designating this month to promote the celebration of Calvert County's local heritage. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Calvert County that the month of April 2023 is known as Archaeology Month in Calvert County. Be it further proclaimed that all Calvert County residents are called upon to join their fellow citizens across Maryland in recognizing and participating in this special observance, given under our hands and seal this 18th day of April 2023, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Thank you. What you all have on the horizon, and anything fun that's going on? Any digs? What are you doing now?
You want to talk to me at the...
We always have things going on. There are going to be celebrations at Jefferson Patterson Park this month. And the Council for Maryland Archaeology, broadly speaking, acts to promote Maryland archaeology in the legislative sense, and just to make sure that our resources are well maintained and managed.
Yes, we work on the state level, and we represent the united voice of archaeologists around the state on various different projects. We also take the second A in the term archaeology in and out just to confuse people and trip them up.
Well, you accomplished that.
I was so grateful that Commissioner Grasso read it, I knew I was from.
I was just gonna say, everybody can scooch in for the picture. We'll put you right in the middle. Perfect.
Here we go. And 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Right?
So some of you may or may not know, at Jefferson Patterson Park is the Maryland Archaeological Laboratory, which is, at least according to the latest information I have, the largest facility of its kind on the East Coast. And although it's late, last Saturday was Archaeological Day, where they had exhibits and they were given tours of the lab, and it was very well attended. So next year we'll have to try to plan our proclamation ahead of that so people will hear about it. But if you ever get down to Jeff Pat, that's what that big, large white building is there on the hill. So, and that's all we have at this time for proclamations. Next item on the agenda is a work session with Department of Planning and Zoning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning. Morning.
Commissioners, today I have thank you. It's good to know that I'm not the only person who says click. Commissioners, today we have the Vale House Historic District designation to discuss. I have a memo, however, if you would prefer, I can just go directly to the presentation.
Please.
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. So, the owner of the property to be known as the Vale House in Solomons has applied for historic district designation under case HD 2023-01. The purpose of this presentation is to provide the Commissioner's background, present the findings of the Historic District Commission, and to provide HDC recommendations. The Vale House is located at 14280 South Solomons Island Road and is shown in Tax Assessor's Map 44B, Parcel 20. You can see that on the map and aerial image there. The namesake of the house is Philip Terry Vale, who was born and is buried in Suffolk County, New York. However, during the early 1900s, Captain Vale moved to Solomon's Island, where he built a house and raised his family. During his time on Solomon's, Captain Vale enjoyed success as a pound net fisherman. However, he also suffered tragedy, and as you can see here from the newspaper entry, Kenneth Vale, his son, aged 14 years, son of Captain P.T. Vale of Solomon's, was crushed to death in the contact. It was an accident that happened on the Solomon's Island wharf. Although Captain Vale may have returned to New York, he left his house, a beautiful Queen Anne-style home that has stood for over a century and continues to catch the eyes of locals and visitors alike. I'm sure that for those of us who go into Solomon's, this is one of the eye-catching homes. You
I
honestly,
love that house.
You cannot help
I
to
know,
notice
every
it.
time I walk by, just stop and just look at it for a while. It is, yes.
During its meeting on, I believe, in the March meeting, the HDC recommended that the Vale House be designated as a Calvert County Historic District based on County Code Chapter 57-8A, 1A, and D, and Chapter 57-8A, 2A, and C. To go through the process, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to schedule a joint public hearing with the Planning Commission. That will occur tomorrow evening. The Planning Commission directed staff also. The public hearing has been advertised as is appropriate and will be held tomorrow evening. We recommend that at that hearing that the Board of County Commissioners consider the application and close the case. I'm here if you have any questions.
Questions?
I have none.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow
Thank you
night.
very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item on the agenda is another work session, Department of Planning and Zoning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mary Beth Cook, Director of Planning and Zoning. With me is Jennifer David, our rural planner. And again, we have a memo, but most of the information is covered in the presentation. If you so desire, we can go straight to the presentation. And this is also an agenda item for the joint public hearing tomorrow evening with the Planning Commission.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Good.
Little new at this, thank you. So, good morning. So we're here to discuss the rural legacy area expansion. I know that you all have seen this before, and as Mary said, we will be presenting it tomorrow night at the joint public hearing. As we have previously discussed, the rural legacy expansion was one of the recommendations of the TDR committee that was done a couple years ago. The goal of expanding the rural legacy areas, there are two of them, the North Calvert Rural Legacy Area and the Calvert Creeks Rural Legacy Area. The goal of expanding those is to increase the number of properties that are eligible to participate in the Rural Legacy Program, which is a land preservation program out of the state of Maryland. The Agricultural Preservation Board approved the expansion in December of 2021, and it received approval from the Board of Public Works in October of 2022. On February 15th, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed the proposal and moved the expansion forward, directing staff to schedule the joint public hearing, which is scheduled for tomorrow evening. And so the purpose of today's presentation is to review and discuss the rural legacy area expansion in preparation for the joint public hearing tomorrow night. In 2020, the Board of County Commissioners reconvened the Transferable Development Right Committee, which was originally created in 2015, and asked them to make recommendations for program improvements for the land preservation program in Calvert County. One of the recommendations made by the committee was to propose this expansion of the rural legacy areas. And it was proposed to include all or most of the designated priority preservation area to increase the number of properties eligible. So to recap on the Rural Legacy Program, The Rural Legacy Program is a state of Maryland land preservation program. It's an easement program overseen by the Department of Natural Resources and then administered by the counties. It provides funding to preserve large contiguous tracts of land to enhance natural resource, agricultural, forestry, and environmental protection. It supports a sustainable land base for natural resource-dependent industries, creates public-private partnerships between local land trusts and local government, and it protects working landscapes critical to the environment and our local economy. It also targets the most ecologically valuable properties impacting local waterways and the Chesapeake Bay. So how does the Rural Legacy Program reflect the comprehensive plan in Calvert County? Since the first comprehensive plan, the county's goal has been to preserve its rural character while also promoting its economic development. And the vision of the plan is a landscape dominated by forests and fields and town centers that are attractive, convenient, and interesting places to live, work, and shop. Of primary importance is preserving the rural character, prime farmland, contiguous forests, and environmentally sensitive areas. And the Rural Legacy Program is an important tool in our toolbox to help us reach these goals. So what are the benefits to Calvert County of the expansion? It improves land preservation mechanisms in Calvert County, and it increases participation in the state program, which leverages state funds, providing additional opportunities. If we expand the rural legacy areas, then more properties will become eligible to apply for rural legacy grant funding. And currently, the rural legacy areas do not encompass all of Calvert County's priority preservation areas. These areas have historically been targeted as areas to limit development and focus preservation efforts for planning purposes. This is a map of our current existing rural legacy areas. In the north end of the county is the North Calvert Rural Legacy Area. And it's shown in magenta. And to the south is the rural legacy area called Calvert Creeks.
Mary Beth, on that slide, you know, in county attorney, if I go astray, slap me back in, but when we were talking zoning and everything else like that, at one point we were talking about, you know, with the additional Ward Farm, is it possible to, if a park changes over to there, where that could go into a rural legacy type program could be preserved? Is that possible? Am I okay going down that road? Because, you know, you never know what the power of 3 does. But down the road, if Ward Park gets to where everything is encompassed there, and now we got this piece of property there, it still has value to be so many other things beside an apartment or a condo. Could those type properties be considered?
So for the Rural Legacy Program, the Rural Legacy would impose an easement on the property, and it would depend on the conditions of the easement, and it would depend upon the use of the park itself.
Yeah, I'd hate to see it being sold to like a developer, you know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean? It's, but I remember that coming up, and when I saw this, that hit my brain that could those type properties be considered for rural legacy?
So we own the park. Could we just extinguish the TDRs that are on the property?
I don't know that it's in a,
Yeah.
it is? Is it preserved?
I don't know if Ward Park is preserved.
No, not
I
Ward,
would have to follow
the existing Dunkirk Park now.
the existing.
Because I don't see
Dunkirk
anything
Park
happening
now.
to Ward Park, since we're, you know, that's just getting going, but
Oh, you're talking
sometimes.
about Dunkirk Park.
Yeah, because,
Oh,
you
I'm
know,
sorry.
once Ward Park gets developed and gets going, does that become the forgotten park in generation? If I would have known 8 years ago when I got on this board, what I didn't notice in the 80s, I didn't notice the groundwork that was being laid for the future. I was in 10th grade. I didn't see, you know, the plan, you know, and so now foresight for the next generation of commissioners that come up here seeing the potential that somebody could do to a piece of property like that to protect it now?
So I think what you might be referring to is program open space, which I know,
because that's only purchased in small. I'm talking a park like that, that all of a sudden now everything's moved to Ward Park. And Ward Park's where everything is, and now they go, well, we don't do anything over there anymore. And then the day it gets sold, it gets condos, apartments, what have you, whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's, where that could be preserved.
I think we would have to look into the answer to that question for you. I think that's
Please.
something that we would have to explore.
'Cause how many
I know there's a
acres
lot
is
of
that?
infrastructure in that other
There
park.
is, and that's what
And
I'm
that's-
saying,
that-
and that's,
and so when I
some
speak to the
developer would go,
use-
ooh, I'll move right in, and, yes, ma'am.
That's not
Director
something
Nizal.
answer this morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Shannon Nizal, Director of Parks and Recreation.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So Dunkirk Park, along with many of our other parks, are protected through program open space. So with program open space, there are covenants in the deeds for the property that say it cannot be changed to something else other than outdoor or other than a recreation purpose unless the county decides to give back the program open
I was
space
gonna say,
money.
I thought somebody could come in
and-
and pay the money back, and then it cleans the slate.
But then you got.
But then they also have to provide a like property with the same amount of acreage
Okay.
for that purpose.
Okay.
Which is very difficult anyway.
Okay.
To be able to do something like that. So it is preserved through that program anyway.
Okay.
However, in talking about rural legacy, there are opportunities through easements to be able to do that to other properties.
I just
to
got thinking
preserve
about
them
that
in
when I
the future.
saw that up there, I said, so, okay,
Yeah, a lot of
good.
our grants, between Land Water Conservation Fund grants, like Gatewood Preserve has a Land Water Conservation Fund grant on it that preserves that in perpetuity. And then Program Open Space is essentially that with that covenant of you have to pay back the money
Sure,
and
but
provide
I
a like.
I didn't want somebody to be able to come in and just write a check and clean
Yeah,
the slate,
no,
and
it's
then
a
they
lot.
could,
It's a very difficult process to do that, and not many agencies
because
in
you
the
know
state do
that
that.
close to PG up there and all, man, somebody would just want to step right over the line, so I just want to protect as much as humanly possible. So, awesome, thank you.
Shannon,
Thank you.
Shannon,
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
ask you a question?
Sure.
Ward Park,
Yes, ma'am.
we have that now, and to Mike's point, we have existing Dunkirk Park, but that is still a viable park. We have games there, and
Absolutely. I think
it's
it
used
would.
to the max, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there are absolutely differing needs for both facilities. So with Dunkirk, that is pretty much specifically an active park with baseball and rectangular fields and tennis and pickleball and playgrounds and basketball courts. So it has all of those amenities and the very nice playground that we have out there.
It is nice.
And at Ward Farm, it's a combination of an active and a passive park. So we have our trail systems and our ecological programs out there where we have a pier, we have lots of trails, we have a paved trail out there in addition to the field space that we have. And then coming up in the future, we'll have different amenities, such as a disc golf course will be put out there at Ward Farm. So there are some differing things between the facilities. So even if it makes a great day up in Dunkirk. You could go to both locations and do something different both places.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But Commissioner Hart will certainly see if there are additional layers of restriction that we can put on any of the parks, because we're always looking towards reaching our goal of 40,000 acres preserved.
Thank you.
Getting back to the presentation, the North Calvert Rural Legacy Area is currently comprised of 1,043 parcels, and it covers 9,554 acres. The Calvert Creeks Rural Legacy Area in the southern part of the county is currently comprised of 2,898 parcels and covers 23,705 acres. To compare, this is the current map of the priority preservation areas. The priority preservation areas are those identified in the county as having the greatest potential for maintaining a viable level of agricultural or forestry production. And they are reserved for farming and natural resource uses, with most residential growth targeted away from these areas. Priority preservation areas are shown in green. The town centers are shown in purple, and the beaches are shown there in the northern end of the county in orange. This is a map of the proposed expansion. The proposed expansion areas includes 2,137 parcels and covers 17,563 acres, and that is shown in the gold color. There are areas being added to both rural legacy areas, the North Calvert and the Calvert Creeks area, with most of the area going into the Calvert Creeks rural legacy area. The North Calvert expansion would include 269 parcels covering 1,633 acres, and the Calvert Creeks expansion would include 1,868 parcels and cover 15,930 acres.
So, we've had some discussions about, just south of the 2-4 split, there's a large contiguous area of open space. And it's not on the priority preservation, it's not on rural legacy. Why is that?
So if it's not contiguous, I think that's probably why we haven't included it. But we can certainly look into
It is contiguous.
to the existing rural legacy.
Oh, it's got to be contiguous to an existing.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. So if
Can
we
you
keep
add it?
expanding, we may get there.
So how do you create a new one?
A new rural legacy?
So my understanding is that that the rural legacy area was proposed by the TDR committee, and then it was included in last year's grant for the rural legacy grant for this coming year, which we worked with Southern Maryland, the office worked with Southern Maryland Resource Conservation and Development to put that into the grant proposal for the upcoming year. And so if we wish to expand the rural legacy areas any further, then we could look at what the potential areas might be best, and in a future rural legacy area grant application to the state, we could include another expansion. And we could look at that in the future.
Because at the end of the day, this doesn't change anything.
No.
It just makes you eligible for a program. So it's
No.
not like we're downzoning or we're restricting or
We're not downzoning,
changing
we're
your
not-
taxes.
we're
We're not
not-
doing anything except putting you in eligibility for a preservation program. And I just don't understand why it's not in any of our priority preservation programs.
Well, we can look into what program it may qualify for. And if, so I think your original question was, how can we create a new rural legacy area? So we have Calvert Creeks, we have North Calvert. Could there be a Middle Calvert? I don't know. Can't answer that question, but we can look into
Is
it.
there a minimum acreage?
To participate in the program is 25 acres.
Mm-hmm.
But they all have to be adjoining properties.
To an existing.
To
For an
participate in the
expansion.
program, you don't have to, as a landowner, you don't have to adjoin a property to participate in the program. But in order to expand the area, then how contiguous those areas are and the relative characteristics of what you're proposing to what exists, those things are considered as part of the application. So we would have to justify the areas to the state and have reasoning for why we want to include certain areas as opposed to another area.
Is that a state number, 25 acres, or can that,
State.
That's a state acre
okay.
for their specific program.
Yeah.
So you gave us a
40,000.
40,000 acres goal. Where are we at right now?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
The 40,000 acre we're
Yes,
trying to
sir.
get
That
to.
I have.
Where are we at right
That
now?
I anticipated. So it is 32,500
500.
something, let me see.
And how much money is in this program today?
Today, for this rural legacy program, there are for Calvert, here we go. The total acres preserved to date among several different programs, not this program specifically, are 32,187 acres. Of those acres, 25,456 are preserved by the TDR program, the local program. And then a smattering of others. The MALF program, the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation, of which I'm sure Commissioner Hance is well aware, is 4,581 acres. And then Rural Legacy comprises 2,402 acres of those total 32,000 and some odd acres.
So to get to our goal, if we identified where the other 8,000 acres would potentially be to where we could, because, you know, that was,
Well, that was part of this-
when I got here, you know, that was our goal, and like to see us close that gap, you know?
I think we all would like to see that gap closed, and that is part of the reasoning behind expanding these areas to include more areas for rural legacy, because each program has different considerations, different focuses, different qualifications. And simply for the landowners, you know, one program might be more beneficial than another for a given reason. The mechanisms by which people are compensated for their preservation vary from program to program. So there's a lot of considerations involved. In terms of, so this whole expansion is part of that overall goal is to find ways that we can have the environment, incentivize, and have the conditions set where folks are eligible for more of these programs.
And because, you know, there's a lot of big money these days that get thrown around, and, you know, we're just one of the last few places that haven't been destroyed.
Yes.
You know, and so, and that was kind of back to my question on Dunkirk there. I don't want to see some big, I mean, some of the stuff I hear, I'm like, man, I won't even recognize this place just in one lifetime. And that's just unacceptable.
And I know people who have lived here for a very long time feel very strongly that way. I did not grow up here, but, you know, I've worked with the farmers for years and with people that have property, and it's beautiful, and we want to keep it as much as possible. I think we have to balance the needs of everyone involved. That's why having multiple opportunities and multiple programs can be very, very beneficial.
So do you know what the allocation is from Rural Legacy for Calvert County?
Yes, I do. The current allocation for 2023 for Calvert Creeks is $1,062,012. And they were awarded for North Calvert. We have been awarded $1,371,909.
And do we normally use our allocation?
Last year they did not. Last year they had $566,000 left over. And I know that with working with our partner, Southern Maryland RC&D, they are working on contracting properties and working on easements for this year with these funds and hoping to use those rollover funds. It's not an easy process. It does take time. So some of that is involved as well.
Generally, the state programs take a lot of time, but they are more financially beneficial. They just take time.
Does that answer your question, Commissioner Hicks?
Yeah, we just need to look at some of these large contiguous open space areas that aren't in our PPA or our other programs to make sure we get them in so that those people have every opportunity to preserve those areas.
I think we can talk about that.
Yeah,
Find some ways
definitely.
to target that, and I have some things that Mary and I can perhaps talk about.
And if we have to change our philosophy to get it done, I'm all about it. You know, I just think it's just so important and premium right now that,
I think this board has the right philosophy.
yeah, you know.
So we got 3 years.
Yes, yes.
And government moves slow.
So the proposed expansion of the rural legacy areas, so you all are aware, will increase the rural legacy area in Calvert County by more than 50%.
So the total acreage for rural legacy was what?
The total acreage with the expansion
20.
will be once the expansion takes place, she'll be close to 50,000 acres.
And we only have 2,402 acres preserved in it.
That's right,
In
that's
that
right.
program.
So, my understanding is that the program has not been, the program most well-known in Calvert County, we had a very active local program for many, many years, and that was what most people were very familiar with. The Rural Legacy Program did not start until later, and it has not been utilized as much to date.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So in conclusion, on February 15th, 2023, the Planning Commission reviewed the proposal and directed staff to schedule a joint public hearing with the Board of County Commissioners. And staff requests that the Board of County Commissioners review and discuss the proposal today in preparation for the joint public hearing, which is scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, April 19th at 7 p.m.
Any other questions?
I have none.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow night.
Yes.
We're right on schedule. Next item on the agenda, public hearing scheduled for 10:30, Office of the County Attorney.
Hi, how are you?
Morning, Commissioners. John Norris, County Attorney, here for your first public hearing. There are two public hearings scheduled for today. All hearings were duly advertised, and the certificate of publication is made part of the record of each hearing. Citizens were invited to provide comment on any or all of the hearings. They will be invited again after the presentation is concluded. Anyone here in person must use the sign-in sheet to my back left at the podium to sign in to speak. So, the Board of County Commissioners expressed its wishes to enhance transparency on numerous occasions, and it's been recommended that the board consider adoption of local policies and procedures to implement the Maryland Public Information Act to educate the public on local government operations and available resources without unduly burdening the county taxpayers. A new Chapter 96 was attached and made available for the public to review. It outlines the roles and responsibilities of the parties to a request for public records. On October 2022, the Board of County Commissioners directed that a public survey and solicitation of input from stakeholders be performed before seeking approval to advertise for this public hearing. In coordination with Communications and Media Relations, public input was sought, with direct communications sent to the Calvert County chapter of the League of Women Voters, the Public Justice Center, the Center for Public Integrity, ACLU Maryland, and the MDDC Press Association. A public survey was also published on the county website and closed on Monday, February 13th, 2023. No substantive comments or feedback have been received. Fiscal impact: no increased financial burden upon the taxpayers than currently imposed by state law. That is, the first 2 hours of a search are free. And as a matter of practice, we price that at the highest hourly rate, unloaded hourly rate of a county employee that worked on that request. Conclusion and recommendation. County Attorney's Office recommends the Board of County Commissioners conduct the public hearing and, if appropriate, based upon the record, approve and adopt and enact the provisions of a new Chapter 96 of the Calvert County Code. And let me tell those that are on Zoom, we do have one Zoom participant. If you wish to provide comment, please use the raise your hand function. Check the sign-in sheet. And there is no one who has signed up to speak in person. JC, if you would please unmute yourself, identify yourself. Whether speaking as the designated representative of a group, will you be allocated 5 minutes, or as an individual, you'll be allocated 2.
Good morning, I'm J.C. Hooker. I would just like to make a recommendation to this, is that maybe the Ethics Committee could train or either put on training and make awareness to the government employees in addition to letting the community know about the Open Meetings Act. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Hooker, if you could please repeat those comments.
I was wanting to make a recommendation that the ethics committee probably put on maybe quarterly or either every now and then with new employees coming aboard all the time, that they get an orientation as to what the Open Meeting Act is from the ethics committee.
Thank you. We were having some difficulty hearing you, so let me just repeat that you're asking that the Ethics Commission, your recommendation is that the Ethics Commission conduct quarterly training of county employees, particularly those that are new to the county government, with respect to the Public Information Act.
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, there are no other persons signed up to speak or online to speak. The request is that the board close the record and proceed to adopt and enact this new provision. There is no waiting period, though you could impose an open record period if you wish.
Motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Recommend that the BOCC, I'm sorry, excuse me, approve and adopt and enact a provision as a new Chapter 96 of the County Code and close the record.
Second.
Have motion and a second that we close the record and approve, adopt, and enact the provisions of a new Chapter 96 of the County Code. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney. The next item on the
Thank you.
agenda is another public hearing, Department of Finance and Budget. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Veronica Atkinson, Capital Projects Analyst with Finance and Budget, and with me today is...
Hi, Suchita Warner, Director of School Construction for Calvert County Public Schools.
Good morning.
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 So I have to read a little public hearing information. The floor has been open for public comment on this hearing. Resolution 6-89 was adopted and is available here today to maintain the order and decorum of the governmental process. Those attending in person will be invited to speak first. For those joining virtually, if you wish to speak, press *9 or use the raise your hand function. Virtual participants will be identified by their screen name or last four digits of their phone number and unmuted one at a time. Speakers will be asked to state their name and address. Speakers who are providing comment as individuals will be allocated 2 minutes. Speakers are the designated representative of a group will be allocated 5 minutes. So read the memo. Background. The fiscal 2023 capital budget bill, SB 291, 2022 Maryland laws appropriated $237 million to be distributed to specified local education agencies for the school construction projects selected by county government. Allocations to selected projects will be made as block grants and local match is not required. Discussion. The Department of Finance and Budget and the Board of Education request approval for the Board of County Commissioners to apply for the above-mentioned grant in the amount of $161,696. The funding will be allocated to the primary playground replacement project at Plum Point Elementary School and must be encumbered in FY 2023. Fiscal impact. Upon approval of the grant, the Plum Point Elementary School Primary Playground Replacement Project will be added to the FY 2023 Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP, in the amount of $161,696. Conclusion recommendation. Staff recommends that the BOCC Board approve the budget adjustment BA 056 CIP and sign the resolution, the Maryland Interagency Committee, or IAC, grant application in support of BOE's FY23 capital construction program. Do you have any questions for us today, Commissioners?
So Is this the only application we've made out of that grant?
So we've been block granted $161,696, and there are a lot of stipulations on how you can utilize that money. So it has required a couple of months of trying to see where we could use that money. And this particular project is really where it fits best, based on the requirements.
Because it's 237 million and
We were block granted only 161,696, and it's based, I believe, there's a formula that they utilize. It's based on enrollment projections, wealth
I know how
poverty
that works.
ratio. So,
but the title of the program is school construction, but this is playground equipment, so it can be anything constructed on a school grounds, right?
so I've had to go back to the Interagency Commission on School Construction to find out exactly what types of projects will be eligible. And no, not everything would be eligible, but playgrounds are, in this instance, eligible.
Beach elementary playground equipment?
So the Beach Elementary playground equipment is already part of the CIP and is already accounted for, so it has to be applied to a different project.
And you don't have much time,
No, I do not.
because we know how fast government works. It's the middle of April.
I understand, yes. We've been kind of scouring and looking at the types of projects that could be applied for. Really, since February, it's been a lot of back and forth with the state. And, of course, because this required, this has to go into the 23 CIP, so we had to go through this process. The requirement to get the application back to the state is May 1, and I have to put that particular vendor under contract by June 30th.
Yeah, you got your work cut out for you.
I can do it.
I have no doubt. It's just unfortunate that there's 237 million available, and the only thing we could find was $160,000 worth of.
Absolutely.
That's the
Especially when
unfortunate
Charles County gets 5 million.
Really?
Yes, it's because it's partly the formula is based on, I think there's a number of factors that the state utilizes. It's not just the student population.
It's usually wealth.
Wealth, and then, no.
He did not
But there
say
are
that
some
out
other
loud.
factors. There are some other factors, so.
Is that the outside voice?
Yeah, it was the outside. Private. Are there any other questions? Do you want to open up the floor for comments?
Yes.
No one has signed up to speak. We do still have one participant in Zoom. If you wish to speak, if you'd use the raise your hand function. No, sir. No one's opted to speak on this.
Thank you. Actions,
Mr. President,
motions?
I move we close the record and approve and adopt the resolution for budget adjustment BA 056 CIP and authorize the president to sign grant application.
Second. And a motion, a second, that we close the record, approve and adopt the resolution for budget adjustment BA 056 CIP and authorize the president to sign the grant application. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. So as you know, you have the form with you, or it is somewhere in email form, but if we could get that back fairly soon so that I can submit that to the IAC, I would very much appreciate it.
We know how fast government works. I'll get right on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Hans. Thank you.
Thank you. And you all missed the staff meeting where we don't even get paid.
Right? It's just that much fun.
So that concludes public hearings. The next item on the agenda is consent. We have several items under consent today. Item 1, Department of Parks and Recreation, Bayside Physical Therapy Use Agreement. Item 2, Department of Planning and Zoning, ratification of Preston on Patuxent Historic District designating resolution. Item 3, Department of Finance and Budget, FY 2024 Police Recruitment and Retention Grant Application. Item 4, Department of Parks and Recreation, Breezy Point Beach Shoreline Restoration Budget Adjustment. Item 5, Department of Human Resources, amendments to Chapter 86, Personnel, Calvert County Code, K-9 Handler Pay. Item 6, Department of Planning and Zoning, grant application for non-tidal water monitoring. Are there any objections to the items under consent? Hearing none, those items will be adopted as presented. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to public comment.
Thank you. The Board of County Commissioners adopted a resolution in 1989 intending to maintain the order and decorum of the governmental process. Copy is found here to my right. The Ethics Commission has asked us to remind those in public comment that lobbyists include those who seek to influence public policy, and lobbyists must register in advance. The floor has been open to public comment from persons in the meeting room who may begin making their way to the microphone, then those joining virtually. All speakers are asked to identify themselves and whether speaking as an individual, will you be allocated 2 minutes, or as the designated representative of a group, where you'll be allocated 5 minutes. For those attending virtually, if you wish to speak, please press star 9 or use the raise your hand function. Virtual speakers will be identified by the last 4 digits of their telephone number or screen name and unmuted one at a time.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'm Lynn Robinson, speaking as an individual with just a quick request. I am a longtime county resident and have been frustrated lately by the closing of Running Hare Vineyard. After several weeks, almost a month, I think, they've been shut down by county order. I have every reason to believe, because they're losing thousands of dollars, and we, of course, are losing some tax revenue, that they're motivated to reopen. But I'm not as convinced the county is motivated to get them reopened. So, as a voter and a resident, I have no lever here other than to ask you, our elected officials, if you have helped them, and if you have not, would you help them? I think they do a lot of fundraising and a lot of good work. They're a valuable asset, and I respectfully make that request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are 2 virtual participants. 8730, please press star 9 if you wish to speak. Ms. Hooker, you could use the raise your hand function. And neither have. Neither have.
That brings us to commissioner comments. Commissioner Cox.
I just have some condolences for, keep your prayers and thoughts for these families: Margaret Young, Paige Ogden, Paige Bowen, Richard Cox, and James Teddimer. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ireland.
I echo what Commissioner Cox said. We have had a lot of deaths here. It seems like every week we're talking about somebody that's just passed. I was out of town last week. I want to thank Catherine for carrying the torch. She represented the board on a lot of different events, which I'm quite sure she's going to cover, but thank you, Catherine. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Grasso.
Another death in the county. I ask that you keep the Granados family in your prayers. Judy Granados died from cancer, and the Granados family owns a few tire businesses in the county. On the 5th, I attended my first Zoom meeting for Jefferson Patterson Park with the board. On 4/13, I attended the post-legislative breakfast that the chamber hosted, and they did the questioning under a new format, and it was very effective. A lot of important questions got answered. I attended a ribbon cutting, although the chamber put this on. They did their own ribbon cutting. I was there, gave them a plaque, COA Barrett, down in the industrial center, and that was, they really offer a lot to the community. There'll be a lot of jobs, a lot of good that they will do for the community in many different areas. And on the 15th, I attended the Asian American Pacific Islander Festival. It was culturally very interesting. our staff put together some talking points, and I got a lot of comments on the historical background that we provided, so I thank the staff for that. And also, the Lieutenant Governor, who is of Indian descent, attended as well. Thank you.
Mr. Hart?
So, kind of as Commissioner Ireland said, you know, there's always so many events. Privately, I've told Commissioner Hans, thank you several times, but publicly, he does a lot of heavy lifting, goes to a lot of stuff, allows myself to be able to have some family time that obviously deprives his family from if he's there and I'm not. So publicly, thank you, sir. Thank you. We all have several meetings a lot of times. I have a lot of parking lot meetings, which me and Commissioner Weems used to laugh about. We say Commissioner comment starts at our business that next Wednesday. But I had a meeting yesterday, which I truly appreciate. It was from a teacher, and concerns over Blueprint, and they're valid concerns. Blueprint, we knew, was going to be a difficult application, I guess, to say. A lot of moving parts and a lot of information that we're diligently trying to get. So I completely understood her frustration of the clock's ticking, and yet it's still a lot of information that we just don't have yet. But I just wanted to say to everybody out there that's affected with the Blueprint that we are truly trying to get that information as fast as possible and trying to apply it as respectfully as we know how to do. But it's not done, you know. Blueprint, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is supposed to be fully implemented by 26. So as things come, I'll try to do a better job to get that out there publicly to you, and because your focus should just be on the classroom and not worrying about what we're doing here. But thank you, and once again, thank you, Commissioner Haynes.
You're welcome, Commissioner Hart. So last Thursday, I too attended the legislative wrap-up breakfast held by the, down at Solomon's. And this year we only had a few legislative initiatives going. I think we had 2 that got through. But unfortunately, for the second year in a row, we couldn't get our local business preference legislation passed. We thought we had covered the obstacle that we encountered the first year, and this year we found another one. So next year we'll work on that obstacle and try to get the local preference bill passed to help our local businesses. On Friday morning, I attended a ceremony at the Bulrushes Cafe in Prince Frederick. Apparently, Bulrushes has been hosting free breakfast for veterans on Tuesday mornings. I don't know how long that's been going on. So that day, our Veterans Advisory Commission recognized Bulrushes for doing that, and they also recognized S.J. Johnson Company for sponsoring not all, but most of those breakfasts. That morning, they did not sponsor. There was another business whose name escapes me that sponsored. But it's just a great initiative that's going on in Calvert County to support our veterans. So if you are a veteran, you have to check in the agenda or schedule and see if that is every Tuesday. I'm not quite sure, but you get free breakfast at Bulrushes. And on Saturday was Archaeological Day at Jefferson Patterson Park, and technically I was there. They had a pretty good crowd all day long, people in and out, got to tour the Mac Lab, which is an amazing facility. And Thursday, I didn't know, we learned that the Jefferson Patterson Park got a $17 million bond initiative to expand the Mac Lab and do some upgrades inside. So there'll be some improvements going on there. On Sunday, I attended a Boy Scout ceremony for Commissioner Hart so he could go out boating.
No, get it cleaned up. Let's get it cleaned, all both.
For a wonderful young man down at the Our Lady Star of the Sea, Cameron Maldonado, whose older brother is an Eagle Scout, and he got his Eagle. And as I told Commissioner Ireland, you know, you go to these Eagle Scout ceremonies, and some of these young men and young ladies, when they give their remarks following the ceremony, the things they say, especially about their parents, will warm your heart. That there are young people out here today of that caliber, because we hear so much about all the bad stuff that's going on, and our kids are distracted, and to see these young men and women on a path like that and to hear them talk is, it's quite invigorating, to be honest. So I try not to miss any of those, even if it is in Commissioner Hart's territory. Did I mention it was in Commissioner Hart's Solomon's and I had to go to Solomon's on Sunday afternoon?
get it all, as best I can, yes,
So,
Yes, sir.
And I will say, in public comment, we had a young lady talk about Running Hair Winery. Yeah, easy for me to say. And what I will say is, staff and this board and the previous board have been trying to work with the owners of Running Hair now for going on at least 2 years, maybe even longer, to resolve the issues that they have there. And unfortunately, it just came to resolution here recently that we felt we had no other option. Hopefully that'll get resolved soon. We don't want to see any business out of business in Calvert County, but there are rules and regulations that everyone has to follow, and I promise you, staff has worked diligently trying to help them through their issues for a long period of time. So we hope that gets resolved soon. And I want to remind everybody again, farmers market season starts next week with the farmers market at Calvert Health next Tuesday, opens at 2:30, and the joint public hearing tomorrow night at the Harry Elizabeth Brown on the 2 items we discussed earlier in our meeting. And I think that takes care of me for today.
Okay. I move to recess to executive session pursuant to general provisions, Article Section 3-305B10, to discuss public security where public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and the development and implementation of emergency plans.
Thank you, Commissioner Braza.
You're welcome.
Second.
I have motion and a second that we go into executive session. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.